A lot has happened in the NHL since yesterday's upload. We have some more trades to break down. Nothing too major, but some notable ones for sure, as well as some big news regarding Mikko Rantanen of the Carolina Hurricanes. And just as a heads up, any other trades that happen after this video is posted, unless it's something insane that warrants its own video, you can expect my thoughts on those deals in tomorrow's trade deadline review. Let's start off with the Mikko Rantanen news. This was a tweet from Pierre LeBrun earlier today, probably as expected, but league sources confirm that Carolina has received clarity from Mikko Rantanen's camp as far as not being ready to make a decision on the team's contract offer by Friday's trade deadline. Hence, Carolina talking to teams and seeing for real what the trade market is for him. It comes down to weighing best trade offers on the table versus keeping Rantanen as a rental. Let's see how it goes. If you've watched most of my videos over the last few weeks, you would know where I stand on this. I think Carolina should keep Mikko Rantanen. I think trading him would be a mistake. The Hurricanes are contenders. They are trying to win a Stanley Cup. You're not going to make your team better by trading Mikko Rantanen. I really feel like their best option would be to hold on to Mikko Rantanen, use him as their own rental, and it's not like they can't try and get an extension done past the trade deadline. They can still try and work towards that. I just cannot see Carolina flipping Mikko Rantanen to another contender as a rental, potentially an Eastern Conference contender that they could end up playing in the playoffs. Now, David Pagnotta also reported earlier today that Mikko Rantanen is open to signing an extension with the right team as part of a sign-and trade. That is the only way I think trading Mikko Rantanen makes sense for Carolina and would be worth it for them, is if it's a sign-and trade, because they would get a much bigger return than if they traded him as a rental. So we'll see what ends up happening. My prediction is Mikko Rantanen stays in Carolina, but hey, I've been wrong before. I didn't think Colorado would trade him in the first place, and they did. Now let's start breaking down some trades that have actually already happened. We'll start off with one that kind of caught me off guard. I didn't expect to see a move like this between these two teams. The Pittsburgh Penguins have acquired Tommy Novak and Luke Schenn from the Nashville Predators in exchange for Michael Bunting and a 2026 fourth-round pick. So two teams that aren't in playoff contention shake up their rosters a little bit. All three players involved in this trade are at least signed through next season. I actually kind of like this trade for the Penguins. I think Tommy Novak could be a sneaky good addition for them. His offensive production has dried up quite a bit this season compared to his previous two seasons, but I mean, so has everyone else on the Nashville Predators for the most part. His underlying numbers still look pretty good, and he's only 27 and in my opinion is on a very reasonable contract. He has 2 more years left on his deal following this season at a cap hit of $3.5 million. I definitely think a change of scenery could be good for him, and I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Tommy Novak become a pretty useful player for the Pittsburgh Penguins over the next few seasons. On top of getting Tommy Novak, you're getting a defenseman in Luke Schenn, who you can probably flip for a mid-round draft pick at any time in the next year. Wouldn't be surprised at all if they end up flipping him before tomorrow's trade deadline, but Chris Johnston did say that they like his leadership, character, and toughness, and he is signed through next season, so I don't think there's any guarantee they flip him before tomorrow's deadline. All in all, a decent deal for the Penguins. When it comes to this trade from Nashville's point of view, that's where I feel like it's a bit of a head scratcher. They were already pretty thin down the middle before making this trade, and now after trading Novak, I mean, who is Nashville's second-line center behind Ryan O'Reilly? Is it Colton Sissons? I guess Nashville feels like Michael Bunting is a guy that can help them be a little bit more competitive next season. If not, and they're still bad, they could definitely use him as a trade chip at next year's trade deadline. In the end, I feel like this probably won't end up being all that consequential of a trade one way or the other. The Penguins also made another trade. This one actually happened before the Michael Bunting deal. They sent defenseman Vincent Desharnais to the San Jose Sharks in exchange for a 2028 fifth-round draft pick. This was really nothing more than a cap dump for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Vinny Desharnais has a cap hit of $2 million and is still signed at that number through next season. And for the Sharks, you add some depth and toughness to your blue line for a fifth-rounder in a draft that is still 3+ years away. Why not? Seeing as though Pittsburgh went out and acquired Luke Schenn shortly after making this trade, who is also a right-shot defenseman who is also signed through next season, it makes sense that they would want to move on from Vinny Desharnais' contract. Moving on now to the next trade, the New Jersey Devils have acquired defenseman Brian Dumoulin from the Ducks in exchange for a 2025 second-round draft pick and prospect Herman Traff. At this point in his career, I think Dumoulin is still a solid defensive defenseman, should do well on the Devils' third pair. He's got a lot of playoff experience. He obviously played a huge role in the Penguins winning back-to-back Stanley Cups. That being said, I do feel like a second and a prospect is a bit much to give up here for the Devils. A prospect in Herman Traff, who's not a bad prospect by any means. He was a third rounder by the Devils in the most recent draft, so really you could look at this trade as the Devils giving up a second and a third round pick here, especially with the news that Jack Hughes is going to be out until next season. I really didn't expect New Jersey to be all that aggressive in looking to go out and trade for rentals at this year's trade deadline. At the end of the day, though, New Jersey did have 3 second-round picks in the 2025 draft, so trading one of them is not going to be the end of the world. If you're a Ducks fan, though, I feel like you have to be pretty happy with this trade. This is good asset management by Anaheim. In the offseason, the Ducks traded for Brian Dumoulin from the Kraken for a 2026 fourth-round draft pick, and in the end, they pretty much just ended up upgrading that 2026 fourth to a second. So definitely a good bit of business by the Anaheim Ducks. Also, I forgot to mention, Anaheim is retaining 50% on Brian Dumoulin, so he's on the books for the New Jersey Devils at a cap hit of just $1.58 million, and he's going to be a UFA at the end of the season. Moving on now to the next trade, the Vegas Golden Knights have brought back one of the OGs. The Rangers have sent Riley Smith to Vegas in exchange for prospect Brendan Brisson and a third-round draft pick in 2025. Brendan Brisson was a first-round draft pick, 29th overall by Vegas in 2020, so for those of you keeping track, that now means Vegas has traded every single one of their first-round draft picks in franchise history except for Trevor Connolly, who was their first-round selection in the most recent draft. As part of this deal, the Rangers are retaining 50% on Riley Smith, so he's coming to Vegas with a cap hit of just $1.88 million, and he's going to be a UFA at the end of the season. I like this addition for Vegas. Obviously, they know what they're getting in Riley Smith. He's not the goal scorer he once was, but still a pretty effective two-way winger and definitely should be an upgrade for them in their middle six. Obviously, the Golden Knights didn't have a whole lot of cap space to work with at the deadline this year, so I think bringing back a player they're very familiar with in Riley Smith at that cheap of a cap hit is a nice bit of work. And for the Rangers, I mean, this isn't a bad return for a guy in Riley Smith who was likely on his way out at the end of the season anyways. Like I mentioned, Brendan Brisson is a former first-round draft pick, and although he's already 23 years old, and his numbers in the American Hockey League this season have taken a pretty big dip compared to last season, but who knows, could still be something there. Maybe a change of scenery is exactly what he needs. And now finally, finishing up the video with a few trades that the Florida Panthers made. First, they acquired Nico Sturm from the San Jose Sharks along with a 2027 7th-round draft pick in exchange for a 4th-round pick in 2026. It is a seller's market right now, so I think this is a pretty nice depth addition for the Florida Panthers, especially given the cost, only downgrading from a 4th-round draft pick to a 7th-round pick. Sturm should be a solid fit on the Panthers' 4th line. He doesn't bring a whole lot of offense to the table, but he forechecks well and he's very good in the faceoff dot. And the other trade the Panthers made, they swapped third-string goaltenders with the Winnipeg Jets. Kaapo Kähkönen is going to Florida and Chris Driedger is going back to Winnipeg. We already saw the Panthers go out and trade for Vitek Vanecek, and now they get a little bit more insurance at the position with Kaapo Kähkö in case Vanecek doesn't work out as the Panthers backup or there's an injury. At the very least, Kähkönen has played a good amount of games in the NHL over the last few seasons, whereas Chris Driedger hasn't. And for Winnipeg, I mean, you save a bit of money here going from Kähkönen to Driedger, and it's not like whoever the Jets' third-string goaltender is really going to factor into their plans, as they have one of the best 1-2 punches in net in the entire league with Hellebuck and Comrie. So that is going to wrap up today's video, breaking down the trades that have happened in the NHL so far today, as well as talking about the Mikko Rantanen news. As always, I want to know what you guys are thinking, especially if your favorite team was involved in any of the trades we talked about in this video. Let me know how you're feeling. Sound off down below in the comments. If you made it all this way to the end of the video and you ended up enjoying yourself, please remember to leave it a like. It's the best way to let me know that you enjoyed, and it does help out the videos a ton. And most importantly, if this was your first time checking out the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button, because tomorrow I'm going to be uploading my trade deadline review where we talk about all of the deals that take place between now and tomorrow's deadline.